Hey gang, Larry Vickers, Tom Alibrando, Vickers Tactical YouTube channel. We're at the Take Aim Range in Pageland, South Carolina. Tom has joined me. He is the National Law Enforcement Sales Manager for IWI US, and he is going to run us through the Galil Ace 21N series. The 7.62 version of this gets a lot, because of the AK magazine and whatnot, gets
Correct.
a lot of attention, and this one kind of gets glossed over. That's one of the reasons you brought it today, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of folks that aren't aware that it's out there. And again, we talked about this before, where the military systems will then be converted to civilian systems, and we've derived some weapon systems from this. This has been out for a very long time. It's a 5.56 Galil. They had a Galil back in the day, the original one. They had a 5.56 rifle, and then they had the mini, the small Galil. This is the Galil Ace. So some of the things from the older version they carried over, insofar as the operating system is very AK-like, very reliable. What they did with the Ace series, particularly the 5.56, is they wanted to seal the gun a little bit more. So how they did that, and if you remember the old Ace, it had almost like an AK-47 safety. When you hit the thumb safety on the opposite side, it would open it up and it created an opening in the gun. Well, they moved that charging handle from the right side to the left side. And then what they did was they put a plate underneath it. And if you're familiar with an FNC, which I'm sure you are, it's very FNC-like.
Yeah,
so
spring-loaded curtain.
Exactly. So when that charging handle's moving back and forth, it's keeping junk out of the gun. One of the other issues that they had with that traditional charging handle is it was an upward turn charging handle. So if I was running an Uzi back in the 80s, you'd reach across and your reload, you'd actually reach over the top and you'd charge it that way. Well, they did that because you could do the same thing with the Ace. You could load a magazine, reach over the top. You didn't have to do the AK roll or anything.
The original Galil.
The original Galil, yeah, and you would run your hand over the top. Well, the downside to having an upturned charging handle like that makes it very difficult to mount stuff to the top, okay, because it gets in the way. So that was another reason for moving the charging handle over, and they ran a pick rail all across the top so you can mount optics, whatever you need to it. Now they recognized that once you mounted an optic, it raised the comb height too, right? It's very hard to get a cheek weld. So this is removable. And if you'll notice on the 21N compared to the GAR 5.56, which is our rifle, the Galil Ace rifle, that came over onto the Galil Ace rifle too. So if you do mount an optic, you can either remove this or leave it on there and get a decent cheek weld. Something that did carry over from the Galil, in theory, is they still put tritium in the front and rear sights. That never changed. The thing that did change on this system is I can actually remove this sight. Very easy. You pop it up. There's one pin. You remove it in case you want to put a magnified optic, get a little bit lower on the rail. You're good to go. The selector lever, the order in which things happen is the same as the traditional AK or Galil. Yep. So if you're under stress and you jam that all the way down, you're in semi-auto. You're not in full auto. You have to make a conscious decision then to rack it back to full auto. Basically that carried over. Something that's different on this is the original Galil. I had a 35 round magazine. It rocked into place. This uses standard military M4 pattern Stanag magazines. And because of that, you have a bolt lock on it. The original one didn't have that. You fired, it would dry, you reload kind of like an AK, charge it, and then go back to work. Well, in this case, once it runs dry, it's going to lock to the rear, and you just do almost a traditional reload. But instead of using the charging handle, you can actually use your index finger if you're right-handed, hit the bolt release with your finger, drop the bolt, and you're good to go. If you're a lefty, you just insert the magazine, kind of bring your thumb up and pull down. Yeah, it's not an in, it's a downward motion, and it's going to drop the bolt. The magazine release buttons, levers, are on both sides as well. So they cater to your kind of folk that like to shoot left-handed. You're good to go. Works real well. You'll notice this is the Galil Ace Pistol, okay, in 5.56. It's very similar. Again, in this case, the 8.3-inch barrel, 8.3-inch barrel, but in this case it has a stabilizing brace on the back of it that does fold. Semi-auto, this has actually been out for a short time now, about 6 months, give or take. But you can see, obviously, its lineage comes from the 21N.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The N, it stands for NATO too, 21N. It means it fires a NATO cartridge. They also exploited more space on it, and they might have gotten that from whatever market they were in, but they actually put an accessory area inside the pistol grip now for whatever you need to put in it. So they really thought this one through. There's Picatinny rails underneath, gave you more space for whatever you need to put on it. These slide off, and it's kind of an all or nothing deal. You pull the rail all the way off or it's all the way on. They allowed for a tape switch too for their systems. It runs right down. This pops out and you have access to a button. But if you are running regular Picatinny rail covers or whatever, they fit on there, no problem. Easy day.
Cool. Excellent, brother.
You ready to shoot it?
Oh, I'm ready.
I'm ready to shoot it too.
Yeah.